I want to talk about entrepreneurship, because both of you are entrepreneurs. You invest in them, you are one, and you think about this a lot. Your old pal, Peter Thiel, likes to say that he would not invest in somebody who's over the age of 30 years old, that it should be the cutoff. You're 44 now. He's invested in you.
Yeah, I guess make some exceptions.
But you may be the exception to the rule. As somebody who invests in companies every day, do you think there's a cutoff? There's a lot of people out here who are over the age of 30. Are we done?
I mean, we've said this before, but when we've looked at our data, the mean age of the entrepreneurs we fund is just around 29 or 30. So there's obviously lots of over 30 entrepreneurs that we fund, some of which have gone on to create multi-billion-dollar companies. So I think certainly you can't say it's impossible for people over 30 to create companies. That's ridiculous. And we plan to continue to invest in people of all ages. The correlation that we've noticed is that if you look at the really successful companies we've had, the multi-billion-dollar companies, the average age for those founders does skew significantly younger, but the success rate of founders of, this binary, is the company a success or not, skews older than 30. So, younger entrepreneurs, I think, tend to take bigger risks. Maybe they're willing to work on these very long time horizon projects, but that's the only correlation we see. I think it would be a crazy strategy to say, I'm never going to invest in anyone over 30.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's...
I don't think Peter meant that either.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely start a company at any age and be successful. I mean, it's really just a question of, do you have a good idea? Are you working really hard? Are you able to attract a great team and motivate the team? And that's sort of really what matters.
But you've had multiple ideas. And there's another view, by the way, which is that you can only really have one great idea, right? That everybody sort of has maybe one great idea.
No, it's not really the idea. There's that old saying, it's 1% inspiration, I think, and 99% perspiration, I think is generally true. I mean, a lot of times, companies start out with an idea that's actually wrong, but they adapt quickly enough to get it to something that's right. And I can say, at the beginning of Tesla, we started out with we started the company with 2 false premises, that would turn out to be really dumb. One was that we'd be able to license the drivetrain technology from a company called AC Propulsion in Southern California, and that it would just work. That totally didn't work. And then we also thought we'd be able to adapt the Lotus Elise chassis at low cost and be able to essentially put the AC Propulsion drivetrain technology in a Lotus Elise chassis, and then just build that quickly and sell it, and that would be okay. But like I said, the AC Propulsion technology did not lend itself to any kind of cost-effective, reliable car. It was okay for a small prototype, but not for a commercial product. And then the Lotus Elise. That ended up being worse than if we had designed a car from the beginning, because we ended up changing 96% of the components in the car, and invalidating all of the crash results and all the safety stuff. The car ended up being 30% heavier, it had to be longer, and it ended up being if you had a house in mind, and instead of actually building that house from scratch, you got some existing house, and ended up knocking everything except one wall in the basement out. And it would have been better to just build the house from the beginning, the house you wanted. So it basically, Tesla was started on the basis of 2 dumb ideas. But we managed to, it was a tough one to overcome those two issues, but we managed to get past them. That's I think the more important thing is start somewhere and then, really be prepared to question your assumptions, fix what you did wrong, and adapt to reality.
How did you run 2 companies at the same time? Jack Dorsey's about to take this on in a meaningful way. What does a day in the life of Elon Musk actually look like?
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend running 2 companies. It decreases your freedom quite a lot. So. And I'll tell you what, so my day is probably a bit different than people think it is. I mean, most of my time is actually spent on engineering and design. So that's probably, I don't know, like 70% of my time. Like press stuff like this is maybe 2 or 3% of my time. It's really, really tiny. And I'm going to reduce it even further. It's probably like 1% of my time. So.
Real quick, and then we'll go to the audience, politics. I want to ask you 2 political questions. One is innovation in politics. When do you think there'll ever be a day where we actually vote on our phone? We stupidly seem to still go and vote, in our local district, oftentimes at a local school. And I also wanted to get your sense of who out there you may or may not like right now in terms of what you guys do and who you think might do the best.
All right, I'll take the first question, and Elon can answer the second.
Trump's amazing.
I think that, yes, we will someday vote on our phones. I think it will have a significant impact because it'll really change the people who vote. So I think that may take a while because there are a lot of people who don't want to see the electorate change, but over a 20-year time frame. I always try to think about things over these sort of 10 or 20-year time frames. I think you can get so caught up in what's happening this month or next year. Are we in a bubble? Are we buying at a low tick or a high tick? But eventually it's going to happen, and I take solace in that. Anyway, Elon on Donald Trump.
Yeah. He asked you.
I mean, I don't really have strong feelings, except that hopefully Trump doesn't get the nomination of, the Republican Party. That's because I think that's, that wouldn't be good. But I mean,
Barry Diller said he would move out of the country. What about
really?
you?
No, I'm going to move. I mean, I think like at most he would get the Republican nomination, but I think that would still be a bit embarrassing. So,
I think that could happen.
Yeah.
You think it will happen?
It could. It won't surprise me if it does.
Yeah. I honestly don't have strong feelings about the.
Do you get involved in politics?
I get involved in politics as little as possible. Yeah. There's some amount that I have to get involved in, mostly because SpaceX has to battle Boeing and Lockheed, for national security and civil space launch contracts. So if we don't battle them, then we'll lose. So,
how corrupt is that whole thing?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I actually would say that on balance, I guess it's not that corrupt, because if it was corrupt, then SpaceX would have no chance. Because SpaceX, it's gotten a bit bigger these days, but it was very tiny when we won our first government contract. And if it had been like deeply corrupt, then we would not have won anything. So, I think actually at the greater the level of visibility politically, the less corruption occurs. So I think there's actually probably like the least corruption at the presidential level, then at the Senate level and the House, and then there can be a bit more corruption at the state level. It's like basically how much attention are people paying? That defines how much corruption occurs.
Right.
Yeah.
Perhaps, and we'll open up to it, but it got me thinking. The only real big critique of some of your businesses is that they are subsidized to some degree by the government. Could these businesses succeed without government help?
Yeah, absolutely. And at some point I should probably write a rebuttal, because there was like a nonsensical LA Times article from which a lot of this stems. Because what the LA Times article did was add up all incentives that Tesla has received and all incentives that Tesla will receive. So like over a 30-year period, and made it sound like a big number. But it's, like if somebody's earning $50,000 a year, you don't call them a millionaire because over the next 20 years they will cumulatively earn $1 million. But that's effectively what that article did. The incentives, I think, for Tesla and SolarCity, what they really do is balance out the actual and de facto incentives that carbon-producing activities have. So, and I don't think they actually balance it out. So the carbon-producing activities still sort of overwhelm the incentives that electric cars and solar receives. I mean, for example, there's a 20% tax incentive for a stripper oil well. And the incentive for solar is currently 30%, but dropping to 10% in 2 years.
Right.
So in 2 years, the incentive for solar power will be half that of a stripper oil well.
Right.
So and SpaceX made it in spite of Boeing and Lockheed receiving $1 billion plus subsidy for their launch activities. So I think in the case of SpaceX, it was sort of success in spite of incentives, and in the case of SolarCity and Tesla, the incentives were, moderately helpful, but not the deciding factor. They're a catalyst. They made things happen a little faster than they would otherwise happen. But you look at something like there's a $7,500 tax credit for EVs. Okay, so that ends up being a 10% discount that the consumer receives for buying the car. It's not like night and day difference.
Right. Okay, we got a lot of people who are standing, and we want to get to all the questions. We're going to sort of try to do this rapid fire, so I'd ask you to keep your questions short, and these guys are going to keep their answers short as well, or at least we're going to hope. Go ahead.
My name is Bruce Gittleman. I'm a private investor in Toronto, Canada. And Elon, if you're not happy with the next election, you're more than welcome to come back to Canada. Question is about artificial intelligence. Like any good new technology, people always fear the change and things that can go wrong. I was wondering if Sam and Elon could share with us their positive vision of AI's impact on our coming life.
Right. We didn't even get to AI in this whole conversation.
Yeah, I think, look, there is a really positive vision here, right? I think the science fiction version is either that we enslave it or it enslaves us, but there's this happy symbiotic vision, which I don't think is the default case, but what we should work towards. I think already humans and AI are co-evolving, and no one's paid attention to this yet. But I don't think there's any human left that understands all of how Google search results are ranked on that first page. It really is machine learning algorithms. So when we search on Google, it's an AI deciding what we should see. When a dating site matches two people together, there's a machine learning algorithm that no human understands how it works, that is getting people together that then have babies. And so in effect, you have this like machine learning algorithm breeding humans. And so really, I mean, you do. And so there's this, and then those people like work on the algorithms later. And so I think the happy vision of the future is sort of humans and AI in a symbiotic relationship, distributed AI where it sort of empowers a lot of different individuals, not this single AI that kind of governs everything that we all do that's a million times smarter than any other entity. So I think that's what we should work towards.
I agree with what Sam said. I mean, we are effectively already a human-machine collective symbiote. We're like a giant cyborg. That's actually what society is today. But I mean, obviously, I have an affinity for the human portion of that cyborg collective, and I do think we need to be careful about the development of AI and make sure it is ultimately beneficial to humanity. That it's that the future is good.
Question over here.
Okay, so not too long ago, my name's Jessica Singh, by the way, but not too long ago on the Nightly Show with Larry Wilmore, they had Bill Nye the Science Guy on there discussing the new Mars discovery, and the other panelists basically said that our society doesn't care about the scientific discoveries of NASA, and how does innovation, what does that mean in a society that only values the results, like the final products like a car or like finally going to space, and not really valuing the process of getting there?
Well, I mean, I do think that I'm not sure I agree with that. I mean, I think we do value discovery and new things, and learning about the universe. I mean, there was quite a bit of attention paid to the discovery of water flowing on Mars. I mean, I'd certainly say that should be more, but I think it's okay. I think it's not bad. Okay. I think we're better off than the show would suggest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to try to get to everybody up there if we can, so go ahead.
Question for Elon. I understand that the Hyperloop was inspired by your opinions about California's high-speed rail, and could you share those opinions as well as a bit about the Hyperloop?
Yeah, just if we're to have some new form of transport in California, which I think would be good to have, then we want to aspire to have something that is cutting-edge technology. When I was reading about the high-speed rail plan, it's a lot of money for something which isn't obviously compelling relative to a car or a plane in terms of the time it would take to complete the journey. And it will saddle California taxpayers with a pretty significant amount of money that they've got to pay. So it's like if you pay a high price, you should have a great outcome. Like that should be the sensible thing. And that doesn't seem to be what is happening from what I can tell. And so I was trying to think, well, what would be the fastest way you could get from, say, LA to San Francisco or cities in between, and ended up mentioning that I had an idea actually at a talk, not unlike this, and then discovered my initial idea didn't work, and then kept iterating with a bunch of other people, and came up with the Hyperloop. So that's sort of where it finally did work from a technical standpoint. And now there are some companies pursuing that, which is awesome, and I hope we see it come to fruition. SpaceX is doing a Hyperloop student competition where teams will compete to see who can make the best pod, and so we're doing a sort of a mile-long Hyperloop section in LA, just right near SpaceX, really Hawthorne technically, but LA County, and so I think that's going to be pretty exciting to see what the students can come up with and who can come up with the most advanced pod design. I think we're going to set it so that like the winner would be who can get their pod to go the fastest within a 1 mile section, and then have a big crash area at the end. Plus if the pod doesn't slow down in time, can sort of get into the crash area. I think that'll be quite an exciting competition.
We got a couple more seconds. We'll grab it.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Barish. I'm a computer science student at Stanford. And so far, vast majority of startups we heard here today, or the ones we hear on the news, are brilliant innovations on business models that are supported by technology. On the other hand, the ones that are based on true technical innovations are kind of limited, that we have a few examples here. I want to ask Sam, why do you think that might be the case? And as a follow-up to that, to Elon, do you think you'll be able to successfully build Tesla or SpaceX if they were your first ventures and if you were looking funding for them out there?
So I think that a lot of people talk about how no one's working on anything interesting and we're all just doing software. The world is really shitty. It's getting worse. It's the end of progress. And I've never agreed with this. I think so. Two-part answer. One, I actually think we're on an incredible pace of innovation. What's happening, as what happens historically, is that when there's a great opportunity, sort of talent sloshes around and finds that. And there's been incredible progress in software in the last couple of decades. There will be more. And so a lot of talented people are choosing to work on it. But that doesn't mean we're not making progress. It just means this one area is transforming the world incredibly quickly. People are doing other things as well, as you mentioned. And at Y Combinator, we fund companies doing a lot of things. Here's the issue. The press loves to write about the software companies, and they have very little interest in writing about the other stuff. And so as an outsider, you would say, well, there's only software. But that just doesn't reflect reality. And, we fund companies doing all sorts of things, and I think we love funding technological innovation on a long time scale. The press does not love covering it. And also, I think there's nothing wrong with working on software.
Yeah, I think for SpaceX and Tesla are probably not the ideal companies to have as the first thing. Generally, because if something is capital intensive, it's really hard to get going.
Is it true that you totally ran out of money supporting those two companies?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, so I guess that would not have been a good first.
No. The thought I had in the beginning was, because I'm not really an investor. I just basically invest in the companies that I help create. And I thought, coming out of PayPal, I thought I'd invest half the money in SpaceX and Tesla and SolarCity, and then I still have the other half left over. Yeah, except that didn't really work out, because then the recession of 2008 and 2009 came along, and it was a choice of either invest everything or the companies would definitely die. So it's like, if I invest everything, then they might live. And if I don't invest everything, then they're definitely going to die. So I ended up investing everything, and it was real tight, actually. In fact, like the Tesla financing round at the end of 2008, I remember quite well, because we closed that financing round on the last hour of the last day that it was possible. It was 6 p.m. Christmas Eve, 2008. And we would have gone bankrupt like 2 days after Christmas if we hadn't closed that round. Yeah, that was hard.
Okay. We got to wrap up. Final question for both of you, but I'm going to start with Elon with this. Your pal, Larry Page, once said that rather than give all of his money to charity, he would prefer to give all of his money to you.
He might have changed his mind.
So my question for both of you is, who would you give all of your money to? Or what would you give all of your money to?
Well, I mean, my expectation is, I want to sort of continue the path of establishing a self-sustaining city on Mars. I think that's an important thing that needs to happen. And then also sustainable energy, sustainable transport, and then education, and pediatric healthcare. Those are like the areas that, that's essentially where all my money's going.
It's sort of the good thing about Y Combinator is I get to pour all of my money back into the technologies I believe in. So I would keep doing that.
And Larry Page will give your money to you. Elon Musk, Sam Altman, thank you guys.